All right. So we're 2 minutes to 6, so I'm going to start running through the intro things for those of you that are watching. This is Bug Free Production. Welcome. And we'll be looking at energy and and or fuel system that we'll be using for a racing game. If you didn't watch the last Fruit stream that would have been on Saturday, you won't understand what this little guy is here for, which is perfectly fine. If you're just doing game dev. But if you're interested in doing some of the design and some of the art, make sure to check that out because that was a lot of pull and make and throw away with those two connected streams. So kind of shows some of the stuff you go through when you're not only designing art for the game, but how do you put it in the game? Is it one piece? Is it many different overlapped images? Or do we just move it around in Unity and transform? So there's a little bit of Unity in there, conceptual stuff in Unity, except go over what yeah. So, with that, if we look at, we got the Twitch TV, yep, Twitch TV link, not link, you know, address down there where you can see live streams and also go check out the schedule. It's Tuesday and Thursday, 6 at 6, and then 1 at 10 on on Saturday. So with that, it looks like we can go ahead and get started. And then at the YouTube, you can watch all the old recordings of the live streams. So with that, we'll get started. Since this is a programming stream, I do turn off the music just because it's harder to program than it is to or not harder to, but it's more things to think about at one time, at least in digital, because you can go back in digital, but when you're trying to write a math equation and you miswrite it, it's very irritating to go back and forth too many times. So I like to keep some of my development at least somewhat linear. And if I'm going back and forth too much, you know, some things, like when you're doing some things, it helps to, if I change this over. When you're doing certain things help. If I'm doing drawing, it helps me to listen to music. But if I'm doing programming, it really distracts me a little bit. And also, then if there's, which is kind of why I was happy that the what was the name of it? It was Game Chops doesn't have any audio, so like when I'm trying to explain something or something or talking myself through a problem, when I'm drawing or designing something, then I don't have the issue of my ears want to try and listen to the vocals. So that's nice. It's just nice background. But then also the when I'm programming, I like I'll listen to music sometimes, but if I'm trying to explain something, I'm already trying to explain it while I'm programming what I'm programming, if that makes sense. So I'm already focusing on two separate things. So I just can't do it. Uh, Yeah, if I was doing music, if I was listening to music and just programming for me, I probably would do it more often, but more often than not, I'm either doing that or doing angle rotation, which is not fun math in itself. So, which I did finish that, so we'll be looking at that hopefully in an earlier, or not an earlier video, a later stream or video, depending on how that goes. That'll be more like a topics thing. But we really need to open up some stuff, I guess. So once you open Visual Studio, I always come with all of my stuff open. So let's go over to Visual Studio. And I think Racer Camera was the last one we did. We did Rotate to Point. Racer Camera. Was in camera state that the actual rotation happened? That's look from, which we did fix that. Camera manager is the one that rotates. I see. So, there's a lot of this just got quunk chunked out. And this works pretty good. I did simplify this, but again, the one we had, this was fine. And I changed this. I added an else statement to do this just to see what my changes were. I did some testing to see if I could get smoother camera. And essentially what getting smoother camera came down to was not anything that I did wrong programmatically. For me, it was just a call placement error, which is why it looked a little choppy when I put it in a different scene with some other assets I had. Um, so we're gonna quick talk about what I did for that, and that's just I snapped. That's not a very good so like I can probably take what's this? This is A plus A minus B multiplied by 1 multiplied by a rate of time multiplied by delta time, which is also a rate of time. So like I had this in an if statement, so it only moved if it hit outside that buffer, right? Well, we could probably use that and just delete that out and comment this line out. And that would be fine. I don't really need this else, so I'll probably comment that out. And again, if this is all you had from watching the video, that's fine. I was just commenting out the other crap I changed in here. So the thing about this is you'll notice that instead of, what was it? Instead of update, which is where I started with it, and then I looked it up and people are like, you should use late update um, in here. And turns out I don't like that either. It's still choppy. Late update being that everything's update happens and then this happens last or late after update. But that wasn't really helping out, and I think so. I just saw a fixed update, and somebody said their stuff was still choppy, but I switched this, and this seemed to fix it for me. And the reason I think that is this might be pretty variable. So if we think about this, right, it's like, and I don't know if this is the reason, it's just what I think possibly could be. I didn't have time to look up exactly what the reason is, but if you think about it, this runs like 200 frames. What is it? Just do FPS. FPS, and they're not always on an exact time thing, so you might have like with decimal variation and of time between them. Of time between. Which if you're calculating the position 200 times and there's a variation in time between, it might not look as linear, where if you have a versus putting it in fixed update, which are more or less equally spaced. So it'd be 50 equally spaced frames. then linear becomes a lot more manageable, and it becomes smoother because it's occurring over that time span that's more equally distributed. At least that's what I'm thinking it is. If anyone has worked with it more than I have, um, please let me know in either the YouTube comments or if there's a way to do that on stream chat or either through chat or something. Um, but so that works pretty good. This is just basic linear interpolation. There's also like a lerp function that you can use through Vector 3. Um, I just did it this way because I wanted, I mean, I could figure it out by myself because I've found directions using this type of information before. So I just remembered it through force of habit. And then rot diff. This is really the only thing different. Quaternion Euler and Camrot. Yep, so that's just dealing with the rotation, doing the same camera rotation, and then I'm working on changing some things. Oh, actually, that's right. I shouldn't, I need to walk that back. Oh, I didn't save anything. Okay, that works good. But anyway, so that would fix the, if you were experiencing any unsmoothing, like non-smooth, jerky movements with the camera, that might be one way to fix it, is just putting all of the stuff we worked on into fixed update. Or whatever you were working on into fixed update. Just might help out a little bit. The one thing I would do then is like we have a multiply by delta time, so this would be fixed delta time. I'm not going to fix it in here because it'll screw up my GitHub, so we're going to leave that way. Just because I'm working on a separate camera idea in a different machine. I didn't remember to push. So we're not going to use camera manager. We're not going to use camera context probably. Won't be using the state. We're just going to be creating some new ones. And probably what's going on here? Um, this should be fine. What's up with the, I think my browser might be a little less than happy with working today. Is it? No, it's still, there we go. Yeah, something wrong with my, what if I think I might need to change my settings. That's weird. Okay. Any rate, we'll look at the bug-free tool. We'll look at starting to make some of the energy slash fuel system, and we might even touch some of the health stuff if we get that far today. I'm going to be looking at some animation, not animation, animation camera game. Okay, let's go to assets, just top levels, go scripts, and we go to the SCO, not parameters, racer movement. Let's just create a new one and create a new folder. And this is going to be for health. Health. Not health. What's energy? So that would be, so yeah, we'll put racer. ENER energy. Ugh. And the idea with this is that it's going to be a UI, right? So there's going to be things that it has to do, such as display the energy, and that would be more of a game designer type thing. Uh, so we'll do some game design type stuff. Might just be really simple, like we'll just probably use rectangles on a canvas, probably. Stuff like that. So eraser energy, and then I'll create a C# script. Um, CMD, what is it? So the idea behind it I'm going to use is kind of like a command pattern, or it's similar to a command pattern or something like a mediator. And it's that there's going to be a command request and a service. So, no, what is it? No, client request and the service. I use those three terms because I think of it as client walks up and has a request, and the request contacts different services that could possibly be running. So those services are basically looking at the object making the request and performing the service that it finds necessary. Um, but it's told about the object through a request because of that. So, and I'm going to go, it's a collision based one, so I'm going to go col, which we could probably lighten it out, but it's col, CMD, command, because command would be the pattern that's closest to, so I put that in there. So it's a colliding command for CLIENT client, and yeah, so we'll need a client, create C# script. What happened? Okay, and this will be col underscore CMD underscore, and I could use camel case, but I like seeing the capital CMD. It helps me focus on that part of it. Because first part's collider, second part's command, CMD, then we have client. So this is going to be REQUEST request, or REQ underscore col command REQ. Oh, but this is the last one, so this one would be request. Okay, there's request. And the way I use this, it's a little similar to the observer pattern. It just has like an, yeah, because they would both observe this object if you think about it in that way. So it'd be like if you're a newspaper, if the newspaper worked both ways. So if a client could contact a newspaper and then the newspaper would contact the services. So it's kind of like the wanted ads in that way. If the wanted ads gave them your information that you wanted to apply for. But C# script, and this is going to be a col underscore CMD underscore Um, and what was this one? I lost my place. Request, and this is service, service. And all of these are going to be mono behaviors. So we're not going to change that part of it because this guy is going to sit on a object that will collide with something, and then this one will sit also on a object that collides with something, and this one sits on the same one as the request. So it works like this object, this client, collides with an object that has a service one, and then this is the list of services that it would need to call to until like pass the game object through to run. So let's see what the basic outline of that looks like. Or I guess this is more towards the health, not so much towards the energy. Hmm. Yeah, that's more towards the health, not towards the energy. Which it doesn't hurt, because the energy might be, if you want to do power-ups where you run over it and gain energy too, that works pretty good. Which I think is what we're going to do for the base tutorial. Yeah, that's probably a good idea to do it that way. Um, and then, um, yeah, because energy will run as a service. Yeah. Okay. Yep, that works. Okay, so we can go ahead and go through with the editing of these scripts. So we got all those open. And then this is gonna, yeah, just date the scripts. Um, and I don't know, I guess since I'm doing this as a tutorial, it's not a great big deal. Except for people that, I don't know, watch this back and it's like, they don't pay attention to the date. It's like, well, that version of the command is deprecated now. I can't use that. It's like, date's right there, buddy. Or if this gets transferred into a new project and somebody's like, hey, this doesn't work anymore. Well, what changes happened between here and the date you're using it? Might be something to do with that. Because I've had that happen a couple times where it's like, why isn't this working anymore? It's like it was just yanked like 2 versions ago. I'm like, you can't be serious. It's gonna have accessors. Um, yeah. Something new happened, so we might actually get some. Depending on how things go forward, we might actually get some VR stuff going forward. Um, Yet to be seen though how that works, how that would look, whatnot. But it's a maybe. Um, which I'll see. I need to get Ko-Fi up, I think, probably. Um, or if somebody else knows a better way than Kickstarter, because I know Kickstarter has like. I do intend to finish Battletops, but I need a better phone because I just don't have enough memory. Um, every time I add something, I have to re-optimize it, and doesn't always work. And sometimes the collision, just the physics frame in general is too bulky sometimes, and I just I really need a better phone to be able to handle it. My phone's pretty old at this point. Not pretty old, but in terms of AR tech, it is old. Um, COLCMD request. So this is request. And I'm probably also going to give these guys a namespace. Namespace of, and you don't have to be using namespaces, but if you plan on incorporating some of these scripts or editing these scripts so that you can incorporate them into your project at a later date as like part of a tools repo, I would definitely recommend remembering to use namespaces, or using namespaces rather, because eventually it just helps to limit things down. And then you do have to use using statements, but at the same time, it also cuts down on accidental class name duplicates, which can be a real pain to track down on certain programs and certain development areas, just because of the nature of how that works. Public called CMD class. Yep. And then namespace. Well, let's get namespace in here as well. Namespace, because I will probably, I'll try and sell this, like the whole blueprint, after I get the, after I publish the game. I'll probably, like a year or something after, a couple of years after, I'll probably publish this to the Unity store, my version of it, so it'll have a few more bits and bobs. Um, it will be mostly similar, but there will be extra bits and bobs for bits of Bob to enjoy. Like for productions, I need dot because it's specifically for the arcade racer. And if this comes out good enough, we might even use it for some other projects. Because I know we're using one asset right now that we really like, but we're also really like, it's really difficult to use, and it would be nice to get some, it's a little difficult to use. It's not very difficult to use. But we would like to, it would help us add more mechanics to it if we had a controller that was a little bit more, a little more plug and play maybe. Because it's a very good controller, it just doesn't um, do quite every mechanic that we want to do. And we got Cole CMD services. Oh, this is that. And this is just going to have the new namespace. Namespace. Oh, I need to scooch up and lay back. There we go. Namespace of bug. Free productions. I might have to rethink the way I lay out my desk. Because this is a. I'm realizing now why I have a kink in my neck. That's because I'm looking down at a smaller tablet. Arcade Racer. Which, nothing wrong with the size of my tablet. It's just, this should not be the angle I'm looking at my monitor from. So now that that's all set up, so yeah, 30 minutes and now we'll finally set up the classes. That's so development though. You spend Sometimes up to like 4 to 6 hours getting the math and everything right, and like what your logic is gonna be, and then it takes you even longer to finish the classes because of testing, and if it's an intricate math thing, then you have to deal with that. Make sure that's all right and double check it. Um, which I do think, which goes back to my camera thing. I'm trying to make something a little more, and it's not that the camera is dumb by any means. It's just that it doesn't quite fit the mechanic I want to involve in it. And that's pretty much it. It's just that it didn't quite fit all the mechanics I want to include in my racing game that I'm building. So I'm editing some rotation type things around, which will probably be a topic stream at a later date. So if we have service request and client, I don't even like the order of that. So let's change that. So client, meaning the thing that collides with it. Cool, all right. So we collide with something. Um, so let's say VARS. We're probably only going to use methods on this one because this is going to be our base class. This isn't going to be doing anything specific. So we don't really need a lot of methods or variables unless we find something that's going to be dependent on a variable as we're writing here. So we have methods. And this method is going to be, command usually has something like execute. Um, so I usually change the naming of that to be a little bit more. So we have actually this is a protected, right? Yeah, this one can be protected because nobody has to call this one. Protected, protected. Virtual, yeah, virtual, and this is gonna be a void unless I determine otherwise later. What do I want to name it? This is just gonna be request. Is there any problem with that? Must declare a body. No, so there's no problem with that. Cool. It's gonna take in a game object. Game object ego, any geo that's passed into it. Wrong. Yeah. Hold on. Let's start with the on collision actually. Llision on collision. So if this occurs on collision, what does it do actually? So that's what we want our goal to actually be. This does that makes a request on collision. So we'll use can we use protected? Because we can't on all Unity methods. Virtual void on collision. I probably can't spell collision, so what I should actually do is just go up here and go on On collision, enter, and then change how this behaves, because I can't spell. The modifier must have a return type. Did I screw something up? Oh, yeah, I did. There, I dropped the void by accident. So we have a void on collision enter, which will enter on collision when an object first collides with something. So we have a collision, collision. Um, what do we want for that? Well, protected virtual void on collision, collision, and basically we're just gonna get the what is it? The request. So we're gonna get the request object on it. And the way we do that, we also don't want this to error out if there is no request object, because objects that it collides with will not always have one. So we need a CMD request. So we have a client, we have a request. Think of this as a request sender and not an individual request. And this is equal to collision. And a lot of people like to replace this word collision with other, but it is a collision type. It just helps some people keep track of it. I would recommend probably changing it to a Control C. I can't spell, so I will. There. A collision, and it's dot because it's a. Okay, yep, because it's a collision type, you actually have to get the game object parameter, or not parameter, property, which would be the object, the other object that you collided with. Get component, and it's going to be the type of request. So we're just basically finding it on that layer. So important note here, this will be on the layer, this will be on the layer that the rigid body exists. So if this hits a rigid body, it'll register a collision, it'll look for this request, but that request must be on the top layer, I like to say, the top layer where the rigid body occurs, because you always pass everything to the top for collisions. So then the thing to think about is, okay, so we have that, right? Then what? So then only if that request is not null, which keep in mind this will always be a pointer. Unity makes fake null, I think goes how I heard that explained. It's kind of weird. Because this returns, if it doesn't find that component, it returns null. So this will be like, I guess this is actually, yeah, this would actually be valid, but the actual result might not be null, which complicates things if you get really deep into it, but at our level, we're not going to worry about it. It's fine. It is in fact null. Whole command request, we have a pretty good, basically we're just going to call that, might not even deal with this because this is just the collision. And, or we could have put that in request, but we would have had to pass in a collision, which is actually how we probably should do it. Or we could get the game object here, but honestly, meh. If we had some more intricate scripts that needed didn't need that say we didn't want to go through this line every time, we could get the game object in here and then just call everybody with the game object, give everybody the game object, which would be faster, marginally, meh. But we look at that and we keep going. So if that's not null, then call cmd request dot um dot, let's go define our dot. So into request, so let's vars methods, cool. Um, take a drink. So this method, I'll probably call request as well. I think I might have called it service in the past. But if we just call request, request, request all the way down, we don't have to remember a bunch of different method names, which is one good thing. Um, the other good thing, yeah, that might be it. That might be the only good thing. We do need a game object here. Game objects. And the reason is that it takes this game object, and we're going to have some vars here actually. So keeping in mind that this is a mono behavior, we can serialize things in the inspector, which means we can set up some of our body characteristics before we have to worry about that. So let's think of it in terms of what can I set up and what do I need to set up on the fly. What we can set up is we can take and do a serialized field, and it can be a array of, needs to be an array of collision command services. So that'd be COL command services, and it's going to be an array. Call command services. Does that just define it? Zero? Something's screwed up here. Nope, nothing's wrong. I think we have to do, because you could add this part kind of depends on if you think you're gonna add things in on the fly. So if I'm gonna add, say I'm gonna create an object with an object or with a component on it, that's gonna be a service that's gonna be added by itself on its own, or how I want to organize that. For most purposes, I think this should be fine. Services. I'm not going to define it because that's meant to be defined in the inspector, the way I'm thinking of it. Which could be wrong, but we'll find out. Um, Collision services protected. Nope. Yes, can be protected because it's serialized. So we edit an inspector. Yeah, that'd be fine. And again, if we think about it, so this as a prefab we can all set up, and your services are probably all going to exist on the object at all the time. They're not going they might be removed by themselves, but they aren't going to add themselves to this probably. And you could always make a method that would make sure you have this. Which would be something like either a start or a wake where you can grab all of them. But I would maybe overwrite some method then at some point or add that to a specialized one maybe. Because not all of them are going to use that. And I might be overthinking that a little bit, but I tend to do that. So if we take AGO, we don't need AGO. We actually need COL CMD service dot. Let's go make our dot. And actually, these guys need to be public. Public. And what's the other one? No, not there. Thought I. There we go. Public. Public virtual void. Hmm. What would that be? So request that takes in a game object. And this is where we actually start processing request. So they request, they make a request. And then what do? I usually like to do this. And some of you might see this coming. Protected virtual void service. And I might even just pass that directly to this one. Service. So then this guy passes directly into service. I could separate it out, but service technically, so everybody uses request and request all the way down the line, and then service is actually different in that it has a service that it provides that it has to do things with, and which is especially important that this is virtual so that we can inherit and use this and override this service, as well as you could change stuff in request. Request probably doesn't need to be virtual, but it might be important later. Who knows? QU, what's the deal? Service. Have I been misspelling request this whole time? What did I do? What did I do wrong? Did I not change it to public? It's public. AGO. An object reference is required for the non-static field, method, or property request. Oh, it's because I didn't, I did this wrong. It's supposed to be, okay, let's delete that line actually. Got kind of ahead of myself on that one. So it's going to be for the, um, no, that's not right. For how does that work? For each, it is one word. For each, um, COL command service in services, CO, nope, not services, it'd be service. There. Yep, that's what we're looking for. Because this, we're just getting a game object and we're going, hey, each one of you guys should do this request for this guy. Leaving all the validation on the service part, the communication part on command request, and the asking on client. So this is going to be request with, and then we're looking at there's two things that would be better. So let's save that game object, or not save, but hold a reference of the game object. And you can see AGO, so all my names are through line actually, equals that. Then we'll use this here, which they're technically the same thing because you look at it. A collision.gameObject is AGO. .get component, so we change that. That passes in and a request AGO. So now we have AGO through all of it. So a game object passed all the way through, verified that it needs a request, or that has a request to make, and passes all of that in. So everything should be gorgeous. What do we have? Just beautiful. Simple request made on behalf of a game object. And simple request made on behalf of service, calling a service, and then performing a service. Beautiful. Now, why would I do this instead of doing something like, if you watch Brackeys or some of the other tutorials, they're like, hey, just make a game object and then make a, or not make a game object, just make a component that's a health script, so amount of behavior that's health. Why would we want this instead? Well, say a projectile hits your character and its goal is to not only the only service you have is not only health, there's other services that it would affect. Say like it hits a stun, hits and performs a stun, it hits and performs health damage, and then it hits and perform energy damage or energy increase or what have you. You can have um all of your same guys inherit from these classes, and it makes it really basic so they all like it might create a big call list when it goes. But more often than not, that would be done some other way if you were going to have something like that, where this is all based on physics. So if the object hits you, it goes through and it's like, okay, here's who I am. This is everything that I have on me, and then everybody else calculates accordingly. Um, there are ways to speed it up, like if you did it not in a mono behavior and you did it through like a type of manager, some type of singleton object, it would speed it up a little bit. It also might not be designer friendly, which I found that to be kind of true. Because the less a designer can interact, it's hard because you want the designer to be very able to interact with it, but you don't want it to be too cumbersome for them either. So you gotta kind of figure out that cool balance for your tools while you're working. Um, Working as a designer and a developer and a artist, it gets you in that mindset. So of bridging all three. So it's kind of difficult to, or it's not kind of difficult. It's more practiced for me to think about it this way, which is why some of my like this class is only going to be like a total of what, it's 35 lines long and most of that's white space, which is absolutely okay when you're coding. It's like you don't have to write everything in every class. You can absolutely put protected variables and don't try not to use public variables. That's bad, but you can definitely put protected ones in because they're readable by everyone in the project, but they're not editable by everybody in the project, which I think is an important distinction. So they're mass read, but they're not mass write, which is very cool. Um, and they carry because they're mass read. Children in a class inherit these variables, unlike protected variables. And I kind of use properties and variables a little interchangeably, but you can do that sort of thing, and it works really cool. Um, because then you have variables that nobody else can write to, but that children of the class can still use, and that I mean everybody can see them, so you won't want that like a security string. But for a lot of things that if as long as you section your code off well enough on a game that even even if it is multiplayer, if you section off well enough to where it's server verified, there's not a lot that they can do. And if they're editing their own game to kind of mess with it, as long as you're not allowing them to get away with it when they post like leaderboards or something, there's a little bit of give with that. At least on game development stuff, there's a little bit of give there. So, um, and don't feel like everything you're writing right now is really set in stone because I gotta tell you, I edited a movement class. No, I didn't edit the movement class. I created a separate bolt-on that kind of handled the mechanic I wanted to put in, and it took about 2 weeks to finish. Um, Mostly because I'm not working on it 100%, but it's kind of like a side thing I do when there's time to do it. But it's one of those things. Um, it's really simple in what it does. It's not so simple what it has to use to do it. But enough rambling. Let's go on to collisions. Um, and just to verify this like works, and I would probably make this a abstract class, just cause this isn't gonna necessarily do anything. And I'm gonna go to service actually, and I'm going to just use debug dot log to show you guys that this does in fact work. Um, looks like we made it. Looks like we made it. How box slick. Um, not a great funny misspelling statement, but oh well. So then I should be able to pull up my Unity. So I should be able to go to the player container, go into the player body. Player bod, that's where our rigid body is, yep. So after everybody here, camera context, I'm gonna shrink down some stuff. I'm gonna shrink down the stuff because I don't need to look at it anymore. And I've seen, if you think this is a lot of scripts on one object, oh boy, oh boy. You might think that now. Give it 5 years. Give it two, and you'll be like, that wasn't such a bad amount of scripts on one object. Racer Cam Manager. Not what I'm looking for. We're looking for CMD, collision CMD request. Yep, so we need a request, right? Gonna go ahead and add a component that's also a service. Gonna make an array of one. Gonna pull this guy in here. That guy's ready to go. Let's use that capsule maybe. So let's pull open that way. And then we're gonna, on the capsule, we're probably just gonna pull open, go down to the bottom and add a client. So as long as this works, it should print. What happened? Hmm. Did the game? Oh, the game's over there. Okay. Oh, it's probably zero. Right. One thing I did edit about the camera actually is, no, we went over that. I think, yeah. Went over the camera, how it, like, needs a multiplier to go farther away from the object, rather. Um, so eraser, that would have been in the camera. The camera context, or is it none of the above? None of the above would have been in the console, in the project, in the assets, in the scripts, in the SEO parameters, in the parameters, in the camera parameters, in the idle idle cam, because I did mine. Yep. So all my separate ones for the bike I was working on. Shoop. And then we go over to here. So what's our from decimal 0.2? So it's moving like 0.2 units, so I probably can't. So let's get like something one on each at least. At least. So let's try to play again. Ah, better. Better, better, better. And if you're watching this on YouTube and it happens to be like he didn't go and do that thing, so or he didn't share that in the last video or something, go ahead and let me know. Sometimes I don't, when you go back to fix things and then you don't remember to make notes for, did I fix that on video or off video? But no worries, it's a quick fix. I think I might even be able to just go over it by pulling open the camera, maybe. Um, it's camera manager. Um, at some point during the video when we were talking about, no, it's on calculation, which wouldn't be the manager, it would have been the cam context, cam state would have been. It's like the anchor forward, yeah. Look at and look to. Yeah, we covered this on stream. It was, yep, anchor forward. So instead of it, we changed it to a multiplier setting because we just multiply by the forward, which is we're looking directly forward from the point of origin. And we have a cam anchor position. You can change this to fix how you want it, but it's cam anchor dot position. So we look at the vector, plot that position vector plus this vector, and we look from is the forward inverted, so backward, and raise your cam state from dist mult, so we get that distance multiplier again, backward. We have plus the position, plus the anchor up, multiplied by the distance mult. So we could create a rise and a run setting, but I mean, to get this done quickly, we might consider that as more polish later. Those types of edits. Right now I'm gonna go ahead and continue to keep going. Um, I'm just gonna keep going with what I have right now. There we go. Little refresh, little refresh. Okay. Yeah, my thing also doesn't like to look at things for very long, which is, there's a little buffering, I think, but I turned it off the live stuff. I don't know what's the deal with some of this stuff, man. Doesn't make any sense to me. Uh, I've set up networks and I still don't get what some of this stuff is, man. Uh, Race your camera context, actions, you. Anyway, so that was that. It's just basically we're using multipliers instead of that now. So we set up and we want to do, up, up, up. That's that. Camera body, player pod. So now we have those, and we should be able to just, because capsule has collider, has a rigid body, should be fine. Why is the capsule not falling? Don't tell me. No. What's the deal with what's the deal with that? Did I might have bricked something when I did the push this last time. That's not great. That could be better. Um, what else could we do to check why that's not working? Could it be that it's in scripts and race remove param? Oh, in scripts in SEO parameters. Params, move params. What's my accelerate speed? 11. So that's fine. It was working in the last session, so why is it? It's weird. Um, what else is over here? Project settings. My gravity got set to 0. Yeah, probably did. Um, I just put that in for now. Maybe quit. I should have maybe set that up a little more short term than I did. Yeah, we're just gonna have to do that. Also having the console would have been nice. The capsule we're also gonna turn off as bounce, I think. Let's just change that to none. Then we'll play. Um, that zero gravity might be a cute little hint to what that'll be. So Locks Lick we made it. Or Locks Lick me made it. Um so then we got that. That's looking pretty good. So it did work. And then yeah, it was just that. So yeah, I made this one project is kind of like a zero gravity racer. So if you're into those sort of things, I would definitely keep an eye on if I can get this when I can get this released. And to help get it released, you can watch live and subscribe or chat as well. Always helps to have a second pair of eyes when you're looking at your code. Um, please note backseat programmers. It would mostly be links if you want to send or if you have cool ideas for mechanics or something that would be cool in the tutorial. Or a zero gravity racer maybe. Because I want to get some polls going if we can, because there's a couple things I'm not sure how to, or not, I'm sure how to, I'm not sure what to. Like the shooting mechanic I'm gonna put in. Not sure how I want to do that. I know I want to do a trajectory line, preemptive trajectory line, but um, and then place and shot. I'm unsure on how to do that sort of thing, or not how to. Prompts like how to aim, stuff like that. Might have suggestions and stuff that you can leave in the even in the comments of this video or other videos later. Are always welcome. Suggestions are always welcome. Backseating's not. um, so we have to look at the energy part now. So, yep, about halfway through, we finally get to energy. We just set up the structure that energy and health are going to use. So let's go ahead and go to project, and let's go parameters, scripts these, and we're going to go over to the racer energy. Normally I would also, and I'll probably do this before the next session, is these guys would usually be up here in a thing called generics. I use there are official generics, like generic is a type, and that sort of thing. But which I think pooling's the only thing I do generically, or using generics, which I'll probably have to look up before the next one because it's not as simple as this. But there will be generics. There will be some generic talk later, some real generic talk. I promise. It'll be so generic. It'll be so generic it makes Top Care look like high end. If no one knows what, if anyone doesn't know what Top Care is, that's a generic drug for ibuprofen and Tylenol. So let's go ahead and make a bracer energy. Let's actually make some energy crap. So let's create a C# script, and this will be like bracer energy service. And what does this energy service do? It's basically just to manage your energy. And the reason it's a service is because it has a service that'll be using, or not using, that will be callable based on a collision. So we can add to this energy. So the way we do that Isaac Busted over in November, no, September. I don't know why I keep thinking November, and I'm just like, well, I do know why I'm always thinking about November, but I'm not gonna share it. And it has nothing to do with election or anything. Totally separate November thoughts. November's always busy for me. What do we have here? November, amount of behavior, delete that. I want my name in space. Pre-productions, which means me.arcade racer. Ba, 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 da, da. There's a Twitch streamer interested in doing like a codev stream or something. Let me know. We have Grady on all the time, and hopefully we'll get another one of my friends to be able to do some dev stuff too here. He was on the Deep Rock stream, which I'm thinking we might do some more. I want to see if I can figure out how to use. If we get everybody set up with tablets, we can get some Aggie.io streams maybe. Because we're always talking about art too. That would be kind of fun to do for October. October. Yeah. I want to do some spooky things for October, so suggestions. hit the comments, hit the chat. Suggestions are great. I thought about a spooky game, but I'm like, I'll never get one done in the month of October. Short tutorial might be kind of cool. Energy race services. Yeah. I think the viewers just, not the viewers that are watching, but the program I have open is just kind of buffery. It's kind of buffery. It's a little slow. Energy service. Mono behavior. It's mono in its behavior. Bug Free Productions Arcade Racer. This is for strictly the Arcade Racer. And it's going to be //VARS. Vars, and why vars and not properties? Because accessors are considered the properties. What most people would consider it in industry to be the properties, the big capitals that everybody's supposed to access. I like to have my vars and my properties separate. And you'll hear me say that that's just personal preference. Just personal preference, especially working in Unity so much that I prefer to have them where I keep them. And I'll move them if somebody asks. Until then, they stay there. Methods. I'd probably only move them after I'm done. There's no way I'm moving that before I'm done. Vars, methods, energy service, and then we just need a CMD service. And then energy, so we'd probably have like a protected pro. And then here's another thing about keeping these protected instead of private, is that protected, do you really care if everybody can see the energy level of a car in the game? Not really. Because if they can see it, so what? It's just if everybody can write to it, it becomes a problem. Which the method has to become public at some point. So if you did a method call, you could do that. Which is where it adds one more layer of, it's not much of a layer of protection, but protected. We'll get into that as we write the method. So this is going to be ENERGY energy. It's not what I want. Why? Because I didn't put the type first, so it's just trying to autocorrect the heck out of it. Protected, float, energy, LVL, standing for level, is equal to 0, because it doesn't matter. Protected. This is where the issue comes in. Where I probably would make another SCO. We're not going to do that this session because that would interfere with how fast we can code for the completion of the class functions. But keep in mind that what I would actually do here is probably start an SCO. Um, that would have the max energy. And why do I set it equal to 0? I'll probably set it equal to 10. Why not? And then, what can this one be? So I'll probably want to make these guys serialized, just so I can play around with them. Actually, this one doesn't matter. This one just stays protected. This one can be serialized. Why do we serialize this field? Well, I might want to change what the max energy is. And yes, if we're technically going to change everything about how and where that's located at, yeah, that doesn't make any sense either, but good habit. Because we might want to do more testing on if the energy limit is working and if things are working correctly, so on. Methods, never do anything in awake. We're going to need it protected. And don't feel like that means you can't do anything in awake. It's just, I try not to I try to do as minimal as possible in awake. Um, not because it's bloated or anything. It's because it's so things are easier to translate into network for game objects. Because for example, I was planning to try and do some AR for Battletops after the initial release to see if we get to it. Um, and I have by doing the specific type of parenting I did, everything's ready to just go into uh straight into multiplayer. Just change over some of the managers and stuff to be network type managers and work on network manager mode and stuff like that. And when you do stuff in Awake, it just makes it really hard. Um, usually want to do that stuff on enable just because it runs after your network stuff. So you either move that type of thing into object on network spawn, or you just try and do it on enable so that you have a little more consistency. At least that's what I've seen so far. Max energy level. Okay, I'm getting a little in the weeds, and we gotta finish up, hopefully. Well, we'll get energy added at least, because we know we can do that. Here's the part where some of you would think this is really stupid. So it's gonna be request doesn't have to change, right? Because request just calls service. So we never have to look at request again, unless we really need to or want to. The thing we can do about now is we just go in and we're like, protected, override a service, and this base. So basically it'll do what was in the other class. So it would just print out what was in there. And what can we do with that? Well, we can just get rid of it because we don't want it to do that. But this would be like there's a wrapper. Is that decorator? There's a decorator pattern that using base is really easy. Um, you can do it without base, but base makes it so much easier where it just trims it down on lines of code. Probably won't use decorator anytime soon for your game. dev tutorials because it's just situational. Um, where yeah, where you could use decorator is often like where you see me set up the like it's like a wrapper, right? So if you have a damage class, a class that does damage is like a damager class, and it does damage to a health script, it can go ahead and I can wrap it in another damager class that does a different type of damage that does to the same object, and then it stacks or wraps itself around the other one, increasing the damage and changing the behavior a little bit. But um, where a lot of the stuff you've seen me do is I take everything out of the class and I don't really put numbers into the class directly. I put them into scriptable objects, which allows me to do that. So then I would it would probably be like one kind of damager class that has so it would be one damager class that has okay, add all these attributes together, right? Um, and get them all from the scriptable object instead, because it's easier for developers to adjust it that way than it is or it's easier for designers to adjust it that way than it is for them to go through and add multiple mono behaviors to or specific mono behaviors even for that reason to that to that thing. And kind of like you would make the wrapper class, you can put a lot of the methods and stuff that you would have in that, like edit methods inside the scriptable object. So if certain bools are triggered yes in the scriptable object, uh, the object referencing that scriptable can go back and just use methods that are stored in there, and it would make it a little bit more streamlined for you, not only the designers, but for the developers that are developing the tools. Um, might be a little easier and a little less RAM dependent than doing things the other way with wrappers and putting them on that sort of thing, which doesn't become hugely apparent when you're doing PC games, but does rapidly become apparent when you're doing AR on phone. And enough of the static screen. I should probably at least type something here. Protected override virtual void, or protected override void, not virtual because we're overriding of service. We're gonna say, let's just say, let's say we're gonna increase energy. So let's say, we might increase energy or we might decrease energy. Either way, um, let's just say change energy levels. And this would take in AGO. We're just going to pass that right in. And why are we passing this so many times? Well, it's simpler to understand when you do it right away, and then we see if we have execution issues. So, change level. I'm going to say Control C. Virtual void. And we're going to go game object AGO. And then what does that do? Goes there. And why do I do it here? Mostly just that I want to have that separate. Because I might have several things that happen here. And what do I want to do here? Well, let's actually define, like I was talking about, one of those other classes, right? So calm and look for unity. So what we would actually want to do here is let's do another create C# script, energy damager. So energy damager, that's probably spelled wrong. We're gonna continue anyway. Um, energy damager, and is there anything inherently wrong with that? Probably not, but and by inherently wrong, I don't mean is it spelled wrong. I mean, does the name make sense? And that's a lot of 24s. Huh. Okay. Let's get the. Did I hear it correctly? Yes, I did. This would be a call client, but I'm not going to start typing and checking because that would probably add a using statement because I don't have it in the namespace yet. Bug pre-productions dots arcade racer quarrels and quarrels are done. Congratulations, quarrels. This guy is going to be a client. And why is he a client? Because he expects, or not expects, requests that a request be completed, which is nice for the request and the service, because all he just puts his thing up there, and then they're like, okay, who can take care of this? Or who should check if they need to take care of this more accurately? Energy client. Um, drink quick. Hmm. Okay. So energy damager. Call client. So we need to override what? We need protected override and oh, energy over or protected override. I like request. Yeah. I don't like to override the on collision unless there's a real reason to. I'd rather edit request. Um, but basically on request, what do we do the base request? Yeah, we do the base request. And the reason energy damager tends to be different, and again, I would probably use an SEO for this, but seeing that I'm testing still, I'm gonna just go ahead and do this for now. Um, and the reason I'm doing this way versus a different way is that, um, or instead of going through a SEO, because that it just takes too long. By the time I create two more classes, people will be bored, or people, or not. Yeah, people will be bored, or people will run out of time for the stream, and they'll take forever. And we won't have made super amount of progress, which 2 hours isn't a lot of time, but we've got a few classes and some structure going. Protect, we don't need to override. So, protected bars of a type that are probably float, because that's what we want for energy level, right? Float. We could have went int, but ints are not as liquid. Yeah, I'd say that. Not as liquid as float or a decimal is, but floats are more useful in Unity um, through their various typing things that Unity has done. So we have a protective float that is going to represent the energy damage. And it's damage, maybe? I don't know. I could not. Do not ask me to help you with a spelling test. You will fail. So, energy damage. Let's set that equal to like 10. I know we set our max energy level to 10 back there, so. But then let's make it serialized. Serialized fields. And here's the fun thing. We said energy damage dealer. Is it always going to deal damage? Is it ever? Because we could use the same one to give energy, right? I can't think of a good name for a class that does that, though. So, energy altering? That sounds wrong. Energy plus minus, but can't put plus minus in a freaking. Can you? No. So we'll leave it as damager and just say energy damager can deal positive or negative. Because if I put negative 10 in here, if a energy service takes negative 10 damage, it subtracts the damage, so it increases the energy. Cool. Right? That's cool, right? I like it. I really like that thing. So, I'd probably want rename this class. If I had a better name for the class, I would. But right now, let's just. Whoa. Wrong screen. There we go. Okay. With this here, we can basically say that. So we do a request, and then we're looking at this, and we're saying, okay, we put that in. So now we can go to our energy raster service, right? So change energy level. Now we can say we want to check if the, yep, we want to check if the person has an energy damager, right? Or the thing we collide with that damages energy. So we'd probably go, just type that in, energy damager, probably damager is equal to a geo.get component energy damager. Great, cool. And similarly, like we did the other one, if energy damager not equal null, then we want to continue and do the thing we want to do, which would be to take energy damager dot. Let's set up our dot. We did this as a protected, so that everybody can read it, but nobody can write to it. but in programming that doesn't actually equate to we can just read that, I don't think. Does it? No. Um, there's probably ways to see it, but I don't know exactly what they are. So we need an accessor here, right? So this is one where we actually are going to have an accessor. So it's going to have a property. Like an old rich person. A property. Um, so I call them accessors. Accessors, open lines. And we're going to just go public. We're going to go public. We're going to go public with this newfound energy. This newfound energy damage. Public float GY DAMM, nope, AGE. Probably, maybe, hopefully. Get return energy damage. That's cool. So how's that work? So we're running in here, we get and we return. So then we can go to here. Um, energy damage plus equal. And what would we actually do? Energy level plus equal energy damage or damage. And then what we're going to do after we calculate that, so it's not going to be fully, because you can think of this linearly. So it's not going to be like that. This all happens in a singular execution of a execution. And it's going to be, so this would be a line, but then we can also do a line of, shouldn't say do a line. We can make a line with mathf.clamp, mathf lowercase f, because this is mathf unity. Mathf dot, this would be clamp again. I think I've used clamp before on this. If not, it is returning the energy level clamped between 0 and the max energy level. Cool. All right. Now we're at 47 after now, so we're probably going to start doing some wrap-up stuff. I'm going to probably put in a debug log statement that also, and I'm actually, now I have so many execution lines that I'm going to break this back up a bit. Whoops. Reason I'm breaking it up a bit, because after 3 lines, it starts to get a little hard to read if it's all that way. I know I haven't been commenting along on these, except methods, accessors, da-da-da. But that's mostly because we're going very short and we only have like 2 lines in each thing. Industry-wide, if you were doing this for like a company or something, you'd probably want to put some comments in here because nobody's, even max energy. I've seen people label stuff max and it has nothing to do with the calculation at all or a limit at all. It's like, come on, guys. Energy level 0, max energy. And then so now that we return that, but we want energy level equal to it. Energy level equal mathf.clamp, energy level. And then we keep going. So this just ensures that, yeah, it was just the debug I wanted to add. That's all the functionality. And it's going to be new energy leveler. Those equal to plus the energy level. And then I actually might go up here since I know that this is assigned at birth. It's going to be 10. Da 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 da. So now if it's 10, I should get 0. And if I actually put in 100, you'll see um, it's a funny little error problem. Which is just kind of because I assigned it improperly in code. If I was doing other things to like check and set the max energy to what it should be, or the starting energy to what it ought to start at on on enable, that would probably be a good one to do here, which we'll probably come back and do. But if you think about it for a second, um, what would that actually look like? So it start with 100, right? So we play. So it comes in and it plays, and it's like, okay, so I'm probably at 100 right now, right? Because I assigned it. I assigned it at call, or at instantiation. So if we do H, whoop, and the reason that didn't work is because I somehow still forgot to remove stuff like this and add my component that I wanted, which racer energy service. Service goes into there. Capsule is gonna lose its oh, and actually, yeah, so this will still be 10 when this plays, but oh, and I added it, so that's not quite right. Energy changer. That still sounds bad. That sounds so dumb. Yeah. Anyway, um, okay, I do need to change that in here. I add it instead of subtract it, which is wrong. And then I need to go to this. Once it loads, it should pull open. Yes. And then we can control S, and so the capsule now does negative damage. let's not be cheeky for the test and go 10. So if it starts at 100 and then loses 10 and then clamps, it'll probably be clamped at the clamp amount 10. Huh? And why did that not work? Where's your energy service script? Why did that not run at all? Service. Did I do something wrong with the client? Pull request. Um, let's go back to, let's get this control C, control V. Um, this guy, request takes a collision. So this runs. Okay, so all of the base stuff should run. I just need to check base request is fine. Racer service. Because request is calling service, right? Request calls service, and it's public virtual void, so it's inherited and not overwritten. So what's the issue there? Questionable. Questionable issue. Um, well, I'll probably just leave that as a challenge to fix this error. Um, can go ahead and fix that error if you think you can figure it out. It's probably nothing too bad. It's just probably a weird call issue. Some I probably didn't call something. Energy damager passes itself. That's not going to change. Base should work. Request should run. And request should request service to run, which should call change energy. Should just do no number. Just new energy. That's pretty workable. So let's go back to Unity. We'll do this one last test run and then we'll move on and do the wrap up. New energy. So it's getting here. It's looking for an energy damager. So it's something to do with, did I put the proper class on the capsule? Which probably didn't. No, energy damager's right there. Huh. Did it get from the right thing? Gets from the game object that's passed to it, which should be the correct one because it was earlier. AGO deck, a component, and an energy damage dealer, or energy damager. Debug new energy. If this does not equal null, that might just take some time of looking at it to figure out what I mistyped. So, if you're watching and enjoying the streams or the videos, make sure to watch out Twitch TV and check on the schedule. 6 p.m. Tuesday, Thursday with um, uh, programming and variable content on Thursday. And then on Saturday, 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. we have what's usually an art stream. That's getting to be more and more for doing game type art for the bike racing game, which is what you've seen. Huh, okay. Which is what you see over there on the left hand side. Not the finished product or the goal, but the start of what I'm working on there, which will be fun. It's a fun little thing. And don't forget over on the YouTube channel, you can leave comments as well as like and subscribe. We have all of the old Twitch channel stuff over there, plus the ones I did before I started Twitch, which was the YouTube streams, which are all pretty fun. We have a couple on if you're interested in game art and such things, especially 3D art. I really recommend that you check out the video I did with Grady, which was for doing some simple shape type things in Blender, which is really cool. As well as I have a couple extra comic videos and stuff that I do. I'm working on rendering a comic I was working on a while ago and bringing that in, which I wanted to do for a long time, just never really had an opportunity to do it. So we're doing that, and those will probably go up for sale if this channel keeps going, and I'll try and sell those to help support some of the channel stuff. So, which will be on Square, which I'll get that added to my title card here. Till then, uh, as always, have a bug-free night, and yeah, we'll head off. Have a bug-free day.